What's up guys? I know it's been a while since I made a video, but we are back and we are doing territory captures on the Sigma Draconis Expanse server. So how does territory capture work? Nations have to control a single point for 2 hours, and if they control that point uncontested and score enough points, they then get control of the whole territory and the safe zone transfers to them. The territory gives them a radar around the territory and also a radar at the Soul Gate. The radar at the Soul Gate is the big thing here because it allows them to control all the traffic in and out of the Soul Gate. After they control the territory, it then locks for 56 hours and no one else can come and take it. And they get all the loot from those 56 hours. When we launched the event right away, the United Nations quickly had a fleet within orbit, started capturing immediately. With the addition of a large faction called FCN, and the return of many of the old vets from other factions, the UN rolled in with a massive fleet, probably one of the biggest ones I've ever seen. For a while, the territory was completely silent, and nobody dared approach the UN fleet. But slowly, out in the dark space, a OPA fleet was gathering to come and challenge the UN. The OPA fleet burned in quietly and then flipped and lit up their drives, sending a signal to basically the whole sector. This was only half the OPA fleet though, and the rest of them were waiting at a rally point back behind their lines to try and draw in the UN fleet, which they did. The UN battle group, led by FCN, quickly was alerted and started burning out to meet them. And that's how the fighting started. Of course, as two fleets engage, the first thing they do is start poking each other with torpedoes to see how coordinated the other fleet is, and the OPA fleet was flying extremely well, using PDC coverage to cover each other's ships and staying within 3 kilometers, so they had the maximum amount of coverage. Each fleet poked back and forth and kept their distance, not wanting to get into railgun range and start a real fight that could end in a lot of broken ships. As the poking continued, FCN lost a little bit of coordination with their fleet, and eventually one of their ships got separated from the others outside of PDC range, and the OPA targeted it, sending 270 torps or something like that at one single ship, and it got absolutely annihilated. Being outnumbered now, the FCN battle group turned away and tried to draw the OPA farther in, while a second United Nations battle group secretly flew in dark from the other side. Eventually, the OPA got drawn in closer and closer following the bait of the FCN ship as the UN Battle Group 2 moved up to perform a pretty perfect pincer with the FCN Battle Group. Once the United Nations pincer movement was successful and they were slowly closing in on the OPA fleet, OPA ships started to fall. While their PDC fire was very coordinated and they remained in a very tight group with good cohesion, eventually torpedoes did start getting through. Eventually, the UN fleets, now basically one fleet, got into railgun and coilgun range and really started letting the OPA fleet have it. The rest of the OPA fleet decided to retreat, which was a smart tactical move, and the UN fleet could not catch them, but rather took their victory with 3 or 4 ship kills, I can't remember, and only losing 1 UN ship in exchange. Marks the end of the first territory siege in server history, and even though the Martians didn't show up at all, they still might be a problem on Sunday when the territory opens back up after 56 hours of UN lockdown.